This week's blog post is the 9th in my Sculpture Synopsis series. It's on Baroque sculpture. For more on the why and how of the Sculpture Synopsis, see the first post in this series. The series is also available as a playlist on my YouTube channel. This is the outline for each post. We cover characteristic examples, the date, the location, the dominant ideas, the media, subjects, and style, major innovations that occurred in this period, big names in art, where to see the originals, and further reading. Here are 3 characteristic examples by Bernini, by Duquesnoy, not sure I'm pronouncing that right, and by Salvi. Dates. The Baroque period is roughly the 17th century, the 1600s, but it begins in Italy in the 1590s with the painter Caravaggio, and in some places it continues to 1750. This is a good time to remind you that periods don't just sharply begin and end, they fade in and then they fade out. Location. The Baroque period starts in Italy and spreads to Northern Europe, but it is most popular in countries that are predominantly Catholic, which include Spain, southern Germany, and Austria. Dominant ideas. The Counter-Reformation continues. See Dominant Ideas from the High Renaissance for the beginning of the Counter-Reformation. The Catholic Church, refurbished, reformed, and re-energized by the Council of Trent, 1545 to 63, sets out to reclaim ground lost to the Protestants since Luther's 95 Theses kicked off the Reformation in 1517. Since Protestant sects forbid most images in their churches, a succession of popes sponsors breathtaking art on a gargantuan scale. Art that is meant to remind the viewer of the glory of God and His Church, not by using logic and reason, but by a direct appeal to the emotions. Another point under dominant ideas. The consolidation of monarchies and the rise of the middle class leads to new patrons for art and to the popularity of more subjects. In painting, that includes landscapes and still lifes. And the third bullet point under dominant ideas is the scientific revolution. The rise of science and the exploration of the globe lead to a new interest in this world. Scholars begin not just to gather and apply Greek and Roman knowledge, but to check its accuracy and to improve upon it. Major 17th century scientific works include Galileo's Starry Messenger, 1610, which includes the first published observations made with a telescope, Francis Bacon's book on the scientific method, 1620, William Harvey's book on circulation of the blood, 1628, and Newton's Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, published 1687. Moving on to media. Sculptors work in marble, bronze, gilt bronze, stained glass, and polychrome wood. The figure over here is actually painted wood. Subjects include biblical figures, mythological figures, and portraits that vary from busts to over life-size equestrian statues. Style. As I said, the aim of Baroque art is to promote religious feeling by using emotional appeal. The characteristics of Baroque art include grandeur, drama, exuberance. It also uses a variety of textures and/or colors to catch your attention. This is opposed to medieval art, which is meant to teach Christian virtues by showing biblical stories, which means that the clarity of the narrative is paramount. It's also in opposition to Mannerist art, which often aims at the amusement of a small, well-educated audience. Baroque art tends to have virtuoso workmanship, often with astounding combinations of lavish materials, as in the Cornaro Chapel. Incidentally, the term Baroque is applied to 17th century art by 18th century critics, including Winkelmann, who favor the symmetry and calm of Greek and Roman art. Baroque began as a derogatory term, implying that it was exaggerated, grotesque, and irregular. Major innovations in this period. There are 2, and they are both by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. First, Bernini creates multimedia integrated ensembles on a scale never seen before and seldom equaled since. This is the Cornaro Chapel. This is a painting because a painting is the only way that you can capture the whole thing. There's a frescoed ceiling. There's a stained glass light here. There are several different kinds of marble. There are figures in relief on the side, spectators to this event, and it's very, very large. One of these candlesticks is taller than you are. The Cornaro Chapel shows Bernini's ability to integrate sculpture, architecture, painting, and light in order to convey intense dramatic emotion. See Innovators in Sculpture, Chapter 10 for more. Bernini's second innovation is that he sculpts figures that seem to breathe because their mouths are just slightly open. You can see that here. On that, see Innovators in Sculpture, Chapter 11. The big name in sculpture, not surprisingly, is Bernini, whose dates are 1598 to 1680. He is the Baroque's most prominent sculptor and one of the last of the Renaissance men. He was an accomplished architect, painter, sculptor, dramatist, and composer. As a virtuoso sculptor, he employs unique combinations of materials to create works with emotional intensity and barely contained energy. I'm giving you a few more examples here. There's the Cornaro Chapel and portraits that catch the sitter mid-breath. There is the Baldacchino in St. Peter's, that's this, a giant pillared canopy of gilt bronze that relates the enormous nave of St. Peter's to the scale of the humans who worship there. There is the Throne of St. Peter, that's all the way back here. It's gilt and incorporates a stained glass window so that it glitters. And there is the Colonnade of St. Peter's, this bit and this bit, whose arms gather worshippers into St. Peter's. All those are Bernini. Where would you go to see the originals of Baroque sculpture? Bernini's works are mostly in Rome, including St. Peter's and the Galleria Borghese, whose founder was Bernini's patron. Other Baroque sculpture is in the churches and plazas of Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and Belgium. The Wikipedia article on Baroque sculpture is a useful starting point if you want to find more Baroque sculpture. Further reading. First, Domenico Bernini's Life of Gian Lorenzo Bernini. This is the earliest Bernini biography. It is written by his son. Charles Avery, Bernini, Genius of the Baroque, is a really good book because it combines text by Avery, who's a prominent art historian of the old school, with pictures by David Finn, who is a brilliant photographer of sculpture. It's one of the best illustrated works on Bernini. Howard Hibbard's Bernini is another good scholarly biography. And then there is my book on Bernini's innovations, which covers the major works of Bernini, plus a brief biography. It was written as background for a Bernini exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum, because their labels don't always tell me the sort of information that I want to know. If you want more of the sculpture synopsis, or more explanation of why I'm doing this, you can go to the blog post whose URL is on the screen. DianeDurantewriter.com has hundreds of posts on sculpture, painting, architecture, and my other obsessions. To join the Sunday Recommendations email list, visit the URL that's on the screen or email me. And you can say, "Well done, Diane," or support my work and receive rewards by means of the tip jar on DianeDurantewriter.com. As always, thank you for listening.